I specialize in the field of early to modern Europe, and I found myself enthralled by the paradox of Maximillien Robespierre after reading Ruth's book, Fatal Purity.
I don't deserve that much credit. I'm Dr. Ruth Scurr, the Director of Studies in the Department of Human, Social, and Political Sciences at Cambridge University.
Robespierre was a diminutive and feeble man who was reserved in decision-making and quite principled, in a sort of distressed manner. Prior to the Revolution, the man worked in Arras as a lawyer. He was known to support the lesser constituents, and, believe it or not, was actually deeply against the death penalty.
And on that line, although Robespierre is known for atrocious crimes, he fought for equality in voting, public service jobs, and the army. He was against the overarching power that royalty and ministers held, as well as racial or religious inequality. In fact, after Robespierre became the head of the National Assembly, the voice of the lower class, he proved his adherence to righteousness and soon became recognized as the incorruptible.
Let's cut to the archives.
Yesterday, I was scouring through your extensive archives of Robespierre's diaries that you have here at Stanford, and I came across a rather telling entry. It said that what was needed was une seule volonté, one single will.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's wow.
And to be clear, the hypocrisy here lies in the fact that Robespierre was one of the ringleaders of a revolution whose sole purpose was to overthrow a monarchy.
The year that the revolution began, groups of rebellious Paris dwellers raucously united against the court and attempted to be free of the past tyranny. This was more than diminishing the undefined liberty. In the context of the anatomy of a revolution, this time would be identified as the symptom stage. Following years of oppression from the monarchy, that was the incubation. After this, it progressed into the crisis stage. This was the point where powerful bourgeois politicians were being executed left and right, and the reign of terror began.
But why? Throughout my research for my book, I found that despite the uncertainty surrounding the exact causes for the French Revolution, there are a few possible reasons that can be deducted. First, the middle class was hungry for political power that it was being denied.
Second, the laborers and peasants were increasingly conscious of their stark predicament and were becoming less willing to support the old and tedious hierarchy.
And third, the French involvement in the American Revolution pushed the government to the edge of bankruptcy.
What I've come to is that France possessed the largest population of any European country at the time, and failure to produce enough crops and economic problems exemplified the stirring upset, and that the monarchy lost its public's respect from lack of divinity and was unable to adapt to fit society's needs.
Hey Beth, will you listen to just a little? I'm just working out the kinks in my speech, so I'm just gonna give it a run if you don't mind. Okay, here goes. If the spring of popular government in time of peace is virtue, the springs of popular government in revolution are at once virtue and terror. Virtue without terror is fatal. Terror without virtue is powerless. Terror is nothing other than justice, prompt, severe, inflexible. It is therefore an emanation of virtue, a consequence of the general principle of democracy applied to our country's most urgent needs. Thanks. You want to grab a drink later?
Robespierre was captured from the Hôtel de Ville by soldiers from the National Convention on July 27, 1794. In the following days, he and 100 of his followers were executed by guillotine in the same place where he carried out many of his executions, the Place de la Révolution. The terror had finished.
After Robespierre's execution and the overthrowing of the revolution, the conditions fell back to how they were prior to the revolution. Principles favoring the upper class, governmental corruption, and a faulty army.
Don't worry, we're still a bit confused too. The French Revolution and Robespierre's part in it begs many, many questions, as much about human nature as historical inconsistencies and technical damage. Was it simply the rapid accumulation of power that led to Robespierre's grand shift in morality, or was it less of a shift and rather an unveiling of his deepest capabilities that the power unlocked?
But most importantly, if the status of France returned to virtually the same state as prior to the Revolution, what can we glean from this historical catastrophe if all desperate efforts, impassioned rallies, votes, brutal executions, and attempts to permanently uproot the economic and political stratosphere and better life for generations into the future were all in vain?
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Thanks for bearing with us, and see you next time on the History Network.